No one dietary formula, no matter how complete and balanced it is, can meet all of an animal's nutritional needs over an extended period. So you may be wondering about variety in your dog's diet. And we're going to talk a little bit about rotational feeding and why it's worth doing and how to start implementing it today for your dogs. So eating the same food for your pets can not only be boring, but it can also lead to nutritional deficiencies over time. By providing different meats, organ meats, vegetables, fruits, and fermented products, this can help ensure that your dog gets all of the nutrients they need. Unfortunately, our soils are depleted from intensive farming practices. Livestock are being injected with growth hormones and antibiotics. Livestock are also being fed animal feed that has glyphosate and other chemicals and antibiotics present, and chemicals are being used on the plants that are being used in our food and our pets' food. All of this leads to foods that may be deficient in vitamins and minerals, leading to health issues like IBD, allergies, and even cancer. Feeding our pets a restricted diet for months or years creates an environment inside their guts where any new food is considered a foreign invader, and the bacteria don't know what to do with it. This often results in the gas, bloating, and loose stools that perplex so many well-intentioned pet parents as they seek to transition their four-legged companions from one food to another. But by following rotational feeding principles, you can help your dogs thrive and feel their best. No one dietary formula, no matter how complete and balanced it is, can meet all of an animal's nutritional needs over an extended period. This is very important to remember, and a trap that many pet parents fall into, and a trap that many veterinarians believe, and which is why they recommend diets that are complete and balanced in a single diet for the life of the pet, which is false. So what is rotational feeding? Rotational feeding is the practice of rotating your dog's food, protein, vegetables, fruits, and fats. So instead of keeping them on the same thing or type of food for the rest of their lives, this type of food became popular as a new holistic approach to how you should feed your dog. And rotating your dog's food can have a lot of overall health benefits, but make sure that it's done properly to avoid any stomach issues. So some of the benefits of rotational feeding are going to be that it helps picky eaters. It can help with food sensitivities. It can provide a healthier digestive system, and you give the benefits of different nutrients when we add in rotational feeding into your dog's life. So consider, for example, that each type of protein offers a different amino acid and nutrient profile. So feeding your pet eggs will provide certain essential amino acids, while fish, chicken, and other proteins will provide others. And the same holds true for fruits and vegetables. There is no one perfect food or perfect food combination that provides everything a human or animal needs to create optimal health for long periods. So this is where it's really important. So especially to focus on why aren't we feeding one food over time. And single formula diets actually increase the risk of a food intolerance. So excessive exposure to a particular animal protein is a major culprit in creating the environment we have today of the ever-increasing food sensitivities among our pets. The reason so many pets are intolerant of chicken and beef is because these protein sources were the mainstay of the pet food industry for many years. When pet food manufacturers realized this, they decided to introduce lamb as a novel protein source. But while novel proteins are less likely to trigger an immune response, even the most exotic animal protein is no longer exotic to your pet if they eat it continuously. Manufacturers found that out when many animals began forming sensitivities to lamb, forcing them to introduce newer and more novel animal sources such as venison and ostrich. So rotating protein sources not only ensures your pet will benefit from a varied amino acid and nutrient profile, it also reduces the risk they will form an intolerance to any specific animal protein source over time. So how to rotate these foods. So when you're first introducing rotational feeding to your dog, it's recommended that you begin with a longer transition period. So usually if you're transitioning to a completely different food and you're keeping them on that food, you hear about the 7-day period. Now we recommend about 9 days for that full transition process when doing rotational feeding. So for the first 3 days, you're going to mix in a quarter of the new food with 3/4 of the previous food. Then for the next 3 days, increase the amount of new food to half with half of the old food. For the last 3 days, increase the amount of new food you're feeding to 3/4 with only a quarter of the previous food. Let your dog eat that for the last 3 days, and then you may begin feeding full servings of the new food. And once your pet becomes used to the routine of rotational feeding, you may be able to speed up this process. So I typically recommend pet parents pick 3 to 4 brands if you're using like pre-made options to use throughout the rotation. So this is if you're using different proteins, different vegetables, different fruits. And remember, I said different brands. And then if you're home cooking or you're making your own raw blends, you can pick one new item and introduce that item gradually. You'll rotate new foods and brands gradually over 7 to 10 days every single month or quarter is a common time frame that a lot of pet parents will choose, but also other pet parents will choose daily changes. Once your dog's microbiome gets used to these adjustments and these rotational feeding times, this is where you don't necessarily have to go through the 7 to 10 day period where you can do a short transition as you're finishing the previous bag or you're looking at implementing new foods throughout that week. Because your pet's microbiome is a lot stronger, they have better gut health and variability, and they're used to the different foods. So see how your pet goes, but start with this transition to help get them onto that rotational feeding schedule. Some of the other brands to use, these are going to be Dr. Harvey's Base, Grandma Lucy's, Open Farm, Small Batch, Lotus, Vital Essentials, Dr. Mercola Healthy Pet Essentials, and Raised Right. There are others. These are just some to get you started. Fresh foods to use, meats, organ meats, superfoods, vegetables, fruits. Let's add in more of like the broccoli. Let's rotate through with some of maybe we're adding in freeze-dried liver treats. So play around with it. See what your pet likes. Start rotating that into their diets. See what routine works best for you, what works best for your dog, what works best for their gut health, and have a lot of fun with it. So what I want you to do after watching this is go through your calendar and put rotational feeding into your dog's calendar today. So look at what you're currently feeding, pick those 3 to 4 brands that you want to start rotating into the mix, or look at those other proteins that you want to start using if you are doing pre-made or if you're doing home cooked fresh diets or you're making your own raw diets, and add it into the calendar so you don't forget to add that variety in to your pet's life. I hope you found that helpful. I'm Dr. Katie Woodley. Take care, pet parents.